Hey everyone, welcome to Rick's Do-It-Yourself HVAC and Electrical Guide. Today we're going to wire in a outlet and connect it electrically to some overhead lighting. And what I got is some recessed light box that I just recently put in, and we're going to run wiring from that, tying that electrical kind of over here right above the my workbench here, where I got that light hanging up, and that goes over my workbench, but I just currently have it plugged into an outlet, and I want to be able to plug it in a little closer and also have a power outlet for any miscellaneous things I can do. And since I have a concrete wall, make a lot more sense to just run it in the ceiling rather than trying to mount a box and run the conduit down. So one of the things I'm going to do is we'll wire this up on a bench here so you guys can see the kind of way to wire it without having it be in a difficult position, and that way you can see the proper way to wire an outlet or switch. Okay, so this is the outlet box here we're going to be running up above there, and I'm just going to basically just route this through right now, and we're gonna wire this outlet up, make it nice and easy. So there's a couple ways that you can strip the wire back on the Romex. One of the ways is basically run a slit or small cut at the beginning here, pull the wire back. They also make wire strippers that instead of having like the cutters right there, they actually have a special one that will clip over all the wiring and run so you can pull all the insulation off. It's pretty handy. It's one of the ways I like to do it. It kind of depends on how much space you have as well too. I mean, obviously this is ideal, like this right here, is to just run the razor blade. You want to run it in the middle because that's right where the ground's at, and since there's no you don't have to worry about slicing the ground, that makes it ideal. You can pull that back. Probably can see there, I don't know, but I hit the right on the center of the ground, right on that paper, and makes it perfect like that. So the other way is also cutting a little bit on the end, like I was saying, and grabbing that ground, or really you can grab any of the wires. The ground is a little easier, and you pull it up, and I'll show it here, and it'll strip that back. Probably couldn't see it there, but kind of see a little better there. So that's a good way to do that. And then you're going to want to cut off the excess here. So on our outlet again, I'm going to go over this. I've done this in some other videos, but on our outlet, what we have on the face side is we have our ground is the center. Our hot side is actually the small side. It's the smallest one, so it's a lot harder to stick something in there. And then the large side is our neutral. Certain appliances, tools, etc. need to have a dedicated hot and neutral. And you'll notice that in certain plugs you can only put it in a certain way. Other ones it doesn't matter, and that's why they're the same size. If it's a motor, it's actually a motor that could run either way. It doesn't need to have a dedicated. It's just the type of built inside. So on the right side here, which one I'm going to call it our hot side, the nuts on there are kind of a brass colored, and that's pretty common for the outlets, the coloring on the switches and stuff like that. And then you can notice on the on our neutral side, that's actually kind of a silver color, and that's common as well. And then our ground here, which you can see is connected to all the metal throughout the frame on this. That's our ground, and that's usually a green screw, and they're usually off the bottom. So it doesn't really matter what side you hook up first or where you go. It's all your own preference. This is 12 gauge wiring, by the way. This is rated for 20 amps. My entire circuit down here in my basement is a 20 amp circuit. And so it's very important that if you have a 20 amp circuit, a breaker that's rated at 20 amps, that's all the wiring you run connected to it. You don't want to run a 15 amp, even though this is only a 15 amp outlet. You don't want to run 15 amp wire, because in theory this wiring could short out before your breaker would trip. Would that happen? I doubt it. But so on this one, the other thing I was going to show too is on some of these, they'll actually have push terminals where you can push the wire in. And as far as outlets go, I don't like those push connect terminals. I've had a lot of issues with wires backing out of them, loosening up. Just the pressure pushing them in sometimes in outlet boxes can cause them to kind of pull out, and sometimes the wire is showing on the back, and it could rub up against other things, and the ground wire is just. It's a lot better if you use a terminal, because then you can tighten it down later. It's a pointer that you should go through actually and tighten down all your electrical periodically. I don't know if there's any set rate on it, but I know on our kitchen light, for example, on that, because you're always turning that light on and off so often, I've gone in, shut off the breaker, and go in and retighten everything up, and you'll be surprised how much stuff loosened up. Now if you've got one of those press terminals, it's just a spring, like a pressed spring, and it's not a spring, but I can't think of the right terminology, but basically it's putting constant pressure on that, and I've seen where they have loosened up, and that's just from the heating and cooling of the wire based on the load. So also if you have outlets for your refrigerator, microwave stuff, coffee maker, basically all those are high energy devices. They suck a lot of power, and that's really important. If you've never done it in your house and you've been there more than 2 or 3 years, to go through and just take the time to go through. And the good thing about doing that, one, you learn if things are wired properly, and you also learn, just kind of how to do everything. So the other thing I was going to show you on here is, see if I can get up close. There's a little tab here, and it's a little metal piece that kind of folds around there. That's so you can just shove the wire right in there. Like, I'll do it on the right terminal here at least, so like that. And you can tighten it down right like that. You wouldn't want it that long, but here, let me see if I can get a little closer here. So you wouldn't want it that long, because obviously it's sticking out there. So you'd want to shorten it up, but then you don't want that wire sticking there. The reason why I've cut these so long is I'm going to wrap it around that terminal, and then I'm going to tighten it down. I don't use these little extra ones. It's just another shortcut, and I just have bad results with those. I kind of do it the way I was taught by old-time electricians, and they've done a lot longer than I have, and works good for them, so it'll work good for me. So onto that is you also want to turn it to the right, facing the outlet like that. Let me try to get the camera actually where to. So that when you're turning it to the right, you're actually tightening down that loop. So on these, you can see there's some holes in here, and what I like to use these for is to bend my wire. So on that, and then you just stick it in there and turn that. I'll show you here in a bit what I'm kind of doing. You don't want to close down the loop completely yet. That's basically what we're looking at. You can kind of see that the insulation is terminating right about the same edge, so it's on the same plane, if that makes any sense. Because you don't want the screw to be tightening down on insulation, because then you're not getting a good bite. You want it just all on the copper only. We'll start, make sure we get on the right side again here. So we're going to do the hot side first, which is our black terminal. I want to make sure I don't get that other piece of copper in there. And there, I just ran it in there. You can see that. Sorry I don't have really great lighting right now because I got all the lights shut off, and that's the only light I have. So there you can kind of see it. And you could leave it loose like that if you want, but I like to tighten it down by kind of grabbing it and just pushing it together. So it's just a little tighter. You can't, it's a little harder to sneak out of there. And then we're going to tighten that down. Nice and tight. And then we switch to the our neutral side, and you're going to want to make sure that you keep it again to the right on our loop. See it, hear it kind of snap in there. And this one is a little shorter, so there we go. So I got it nice and tight loop there. Tighten that one down. I'm also at the same time pulling back on the wire so it's deep in there. Kind of show that up close there. And then the last one we got left is our ground. That one's easy. Now normally, like I said, you'd be doing this where the outlet's at. I'm going to pre-wire this and just nail it up. And you can do this if you're doing the same sort of thing. It makes it real easy. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. So there's a trick on doing the wire in the outlet box on this one. You don't want any of your the area where it doesn't have the sheathing on it to be outside of your outlet box. This is a pretty deep box, but you just want to fold them up, and I usually kind of like to do a fold like this. And you want to keep your ground on the same side as your neutral side, so it doesn't cross or anything like that. Your ground and your neutral are actually connected on the same bus on your breaker, so in theory they're the same wire. It's there for if something shorts out, that it has another path to go for your protection. So this one's super easy since it's got this giant gang box and everything, but I'm just going to wire this up here or screw this in. And like I was mentioning before on the tightening everything down and making sure it's wired right, is to I recommend you guys to actually buy a 20 amp outlet box, or I mean outlet, duplex outlet, which is what this is called, actually a duplex outlet, or heavy duty, any of the heavy duty rated ones for any appliances, or if you're doing like something in your garage, you know, spend the extra bucks and buy the heavy duty one, just because you're running things at higher amperage, and it will just for safety reasons, you know, it's cheap insurance to buy a little bit higher quality outlets. My wife kind of got mad at me because pretty much all the outlets in our house are all heavy duty. This was an extra one I had, and so I didn't want to have to buy another one. I just kind of used an extra stuff we had to run this real quick. And but a lot of them are the 20 amp heavy duty, which take a lot of pressure to push you know, something plugged in. And she thought they were broken because she couldn't stick nothing in there. I'm like, oh no, you just got to push it really hard. And so we're all wired up, and you want to look inside your box and just make sure that if you do have anything like your hot side, neutral, and nothing's crossing on your ground, and see the ground's off the side, so we're ready to go on that one. And so I'll move the camera and we'll get this mounted up and wired in. Okay, so I'm just gonna hammer this in up here. No particular location I really have to run it, but I'll tuck it in around here somewhere. Kaboom! Okay, so we got the outlet wired. The outlet box has been installed. Just got to run the wire out and then tie it into our existing overhead lighting, and we'll be all fired up. Should make it a little easier. I'll fight the wire falling down as much now. Now the ceiling boxes use a nice push-in terminal, so I actually don't need to wire nut anything on these. So I was just going to show you guys a little up close if I could. You know, probably just use the, just kind of all just pop out. But you can kind of see here the these push terminals. There's our ground, and this wire will just push into these, and they lock in there. And so that's all I got to do. I got my black, my hot, my white's my neutral, and then my ground. And I already got a couple wires going in each of these, but I have an extra terminal on each one. And you can kind of see there, and I'll get it pushed in there and get this tied up. And we'll come back since I can't hold and do all this at the same time. So we'll check back here in a second. Okay, and we're all tied in now. Have all the wiring, and so the yellow wire was going to our outlet, and the neutral are hot, and then our ground. So everything's tied in. We can close this up. Like that. Here you can kind of see those push terminals a little better. It does have regular grommet inserts too if you wanted to pop those out and put in a locking grommet. Okay, so we have our outlet wired up here, and here you can see it feeding back. The lights are on for all the recessed lighting I put in. And so now our box should be hot, and then we can fire up this light. The switch is already on it, and so we'll plug this in, and there we go. We are good to go. And this is a nice little light because it actually has a separate on-off for it. And so now I just got to tuck that wiring up in there and be able to use my workbench. Some extra lighting. Thanks again for watching. If you guys got any questions, let me know. Send me any comments you have. Thank you.